Welcome to another session. We're lucky enough to have Dr. Tom Dykstra here, a relatively famous entomologist, scientist, and all around kind of a knowledgeable guy, and I don't want to go any further with that. But last February, you and I were in Canada speaking to the High BRIX Manufacturing Bacteria Roots Symposium. And just after I left there, I was going down through giving a talk in Washington State, Idaho, Utah, and over to Colorado. And I was talking about sugar content, BRIX. And I was talking about how the plant on a dry matter basis is predominantly, if it's healthy and if it's strong, if it has gotten everything it's wanted, the plant is roughly 47% carbon, 43% oxygen, 4% hydrogen. Ballpark numbers. And I see this guy's hand go up. Those are pretty broad numbers, pretty ambiguous. He says, can you be any more specific?
Like 47.2? How
No.
many decimal points does he want to go to?
Well, I went the other way. It's just like, I think I know what you're talking about. And it's like, now I said, you may be talking about primary metabolites. You being a doctor, you've learned of these things. Primary metabolites are basically the essence of the beginning growth.
Mm-hmm.
Root, stem, leaf, reproduction.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily, no quality.
Yeah.
No wonderment, just there. Kind of like some people we run into or relatives that we may have.
I know the type.
I've got a couple in my family.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at those primary metabolites, and this is the answer I gave him, but I know you know the answer. When you look at these primary metabolites like carbohydrates, proteins, fatty acids, lipids, they're primarily made up of what three things?
They're primarily made up of three atoms: carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Those are the three main constituents of... I'm supposed to draw this in right now. Right now, this is a prop that I'm being asked to pull in both the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So, wait a second. Are those the same atoms on sugar?
There's a connection.
I knew it. I got it. I see where you're going right now.
Slow but consistent.
So you are correct. Those are the three main ones. Nitrogen, everyone talks about it. It's a fourth. It's never third. It's always fourth. Mm-hmm. And just to make that point too, it's also a distant fourth from first and second.
A distant fourth, not a close.
Distant fourth from first to second. Yeah, it's close to third, but it's a distant. So
okay.
That's important to mention.
So we have primary metabolites. Have you done any work on figuring out what BRIX levels is related to the primary metabolites?
No, what we see is the BRIX levels simply just need to be as high as they possibly can during the vegetative stage, which is usually what you're referring to in a very general sense. And that is during that stage, there's a lot of activity going on. They're repeating a lot of proteins in order to make the roots, the stems, and the leaves and things like that. And then it changes, of course, during reproduction, but that's what we're looking for, and that's what we see. The BRIX levels usually, because they're going into reproduction, which usually causes a drop. Therefore, to partially answer your question, during the vegetative stage, that should be the highest level of BRIX, because a plant, when it goes into reproduction, when it wants to make a fruit, when it wants to make seeds, when it wants to make a flower, goes through a lot of stress, and it wants to be at as high a BRIX as possible because it's going to start to go down as it starts to deplete its reserves in order to take care of these reproductive structures. So we would be looking for something, of course, high, but we're also looking for something higher than what we see during the reproductive phase.
Can you identify a healthy high? And there's no pun involved in this.
I can do a healthy high. We measured, there is I'm from Florida, so you're going to get citrus, and I apologize about that. But we were able to measure a tree down in Florida. It came in at 15.9 BRIX. And this tree looked fantastic. We noticed no problem. It wasn't being eaten by any insects. There were no Asian citrus psyllids on it. There was certainly no citrus greening. It was a very, very healthy tree. We went back several months later in order to retest that tree after it was done producing oranges and they were all picked. It went down to 10. So a drop of 5 BRIX is substantial. And so because of this, I think we can see, like, is it still healthy? Yeah, it's still healthy. It was 10. I think it might have been 10.6, but I can't remember if that was the exact figure. But the point being is that you've got a very high BRIX of 15.9. It goes through the orange season, the reproductive season. And then after all is said and done, it's starting at 10 again, and it's going to want to bring itself back up to in the 15 range, possibly higher, in order to produce as many oranges as possible with a lot of sugar in them, which is a sweet orange, which is going to be more money for the individual because down in Florida, we're paid by BRIX. And therefore, the higher the BRIX, the more money you get. And so that's just the way things work in Florida. So there are different reasons additional reasons, I should say, for keeping the plants healthy. So, yep. So that's kind of what I'm talking about as far as the differences.
Primary metabolites.
Primary metabolites.
It's the basis of getting things going.
Those are the basis of things going. Once you move to the reproduction, all chaos breaks loose.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this gentleman that asked me says, can you be more particular? Can you give me more examples? So I give the primary metabolites that are basically carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, and a little bit of nitrogen. And I said, but maybe you're curious and you want to know more. So let's jump into essential and non-essential amino acids. Just on a ballpark, roughly what are most amino acids comprised of?
Most amino acids are composed of the same 3 that I just discussed, the carbon, the hydrogen, and the oxygen, but they all include one additional, always. They always include an additional nitrogen. Sometimes they have more than one nitrogen atom, but they contain at least one. Therefore, this is C.H.O.N. For abbreviation, I just call it CHON sometimes. Sometimes it's easier to remember that, to have something to recall. And therefore, when you have the big 3, and then you've got the CHON, which is composed of the amino acids, we've now moved into a slightly different realm than what we had before. And these changes you can follow in various ways. I'm assuming, because I know him pretty well, that we're going to follow in another sequence as soon as I stop talking. Let's see.
So, thanks for that answer, Tom, in which I explained, not nearly as eloquent as you, but I said your essentials and non-essentials, carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen.
Yeah.
I said, but there's more. And this guy's kind of getting this glazy look like, I don't know if I wish I would have even have asked that question. Said there's something called secondary metabolites.
Yes.
Not talked about very often, not seen very often.
True.
But you know when they're not there. So these secondary metabolites, the flavonoids, the leucines, the isoleucines, the cannabinoids,
terpenes.
There's thousands and thousands of them.
Thousands of them. Tens of thousands.
Tens of thousands.
There's actually tens of thousands.
What are they comprised of, basically?
The same atoms that I just described to you.
Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen.
It hasn't changed.
And sugar is 6 parts carbon.
Yep.
12 parts hydrogen.
So far, so good.
6 parts oxygen.
Oh, you're good.
I'm not a chemist and I don't want to be. But I'm not a doctor either. But you don't have to be a chef to make a sandwich. Think about that. So as we go along, you don't have to be a doctor to understand this. So when we look at the secondary metabolites, what are they there for?
They are there for many, many reasons. They're not just there for one reason. Part of the reason why they're called secondary metabolites is because they're found in such low levels as compared to the primary metabolites. The primary metabolites make the whole structure of the plant. The secondary plant metabolites, very, very tiny levels of them, and they are there for multiple reasons. They're the ones that add color to a plant. They add odor to a plant. They add
aroma.
Aroma is a much better word. Thank you for correcting.
Odiferous?
I'm sorry. I'm in olfaction, so we use odor a lot. We don't use aroma so much, but aroma will work. And I know
where we find here in South Dakota.
So refined. I need to raise my level up to.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry. Going on. Aroma.
I'm sorry. Where
color,
was I? And taste.
Size.
And taste. So these are the three things that they add. In addition to that, they're also insect repellents. And in addition to that, they are also absorbing UV radiation. They have roles to protect that. So they're just a multitude. When you've got over 10,000 secondary plant metabolites, they all have these different functions, and they're because they have so many different functions, sometimes even more than one, it's difficult in order to say which ones they have and which ones they don't. For example, the flavonoids, which are all cyclic, are wonderful UV absorbers. Not to say that all of the secondary metabolites are UV absorbers, but that the point that I'm making is that some secondary metabolites will specialize in certain parts of the plant in order to protect it or to do whatever those 5,000 or 6,000 different flavonoids that exist in plants are out there. So that's what you've got right there. And this is the reason why we differentiate between primary, where there's lots of them, and secondary, where there's not a lot of them, but they're still important.
Would the secondary metabolites be an insulation or protection, a fire extinguishers, so to speak, but not being used, but knowing you got it?
Yes. What has been found for those who have studied the secondary plant metabolites, you will find that most of the secondary plant metabolites that are found in a given plant, as understood and produced, let's say, by genetics or sometimes pulled up into the soil, they are almost all there in very, very low amounts. And so when you see the charts for them, as I have, every once in a while you'll see a secondary plant metabolite shoot up. There'll be a spike. And that just means that the plant needs that secondary plant metabolite to perform whatever function that secondary plant metabolite needs to do at that particular moment, and then it will go back down. Why doesn't it just stay high all the time? Because it takes too much energy. Plants do not spend all of their time producing massive amounts of secondary plant metabolites. It takes too much energy to do so. Therefore, what they do is they wait until they need them. And when they need them, they will then focus the energy, because they can choose between easily hundreds of them just within a given plant, and actually jump up the number in order to cause the effect that secondary plant metabolite, the job that it has to do in that particular plant. So that's how most plants work.
So to put it into relative terms, would a secondary metabolite be something like maybe a mouth guard or a helmet?
It could be like a mouth guard or a helmet. Absolutely, it could.
Or could secondary metabolite be something like a hard cup, athletic supporter?
Sure, could be that too. Absolutely.
Or could a secondary metabolite be something like a kidney belt?
Yeah, it could be that too. I mean, all of those are definitely possibilities.
The point. Sorry about that.
I'm putting this down right now.
The point is,
I trust him implicitly. Really, I do.
Is going back to the carbon, oxygen, and hydrogen, the sugar content.
Yeah.
The plant has to have enough of it in reserve.
Sure.
To be able to send it to protect it against a disease.
That's right.
An insect.
That's right.
A weather event.
A weather event too. Yeah.
Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So we're very happy to have Dr. Dykstra with us, bestowing his wisdom upon us. If they would like to learn more about BRIX and other things like that,
if you'd like to know a little bit more about BRIX, you can find some YouTube videos online. Just go ahead and type out Thomas Dykstra in the search engine on YouTube. A couple of videos will come up, and that should hopefully satisfy your curiosity about BRIX. And if you needed any more information, you can also reach me at dykstralabs.com. Got the phone number there, and I would be happy to take care of you in whatever capacity that I can take care of you. That's rather open-ended, isn't it? I should probably limit it.
I think it was good.
Okay.
I'm Glen with SoilWorks. We hope this information has been of value, and we can't wait till we find some more information to send to you. So for Tom Dykstra and I, we appreciate you viewing and hope this information was valuable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now it's time to check your reflexes.